gifts, right? And we talked about Jesus being the best gift ever. All right. We said that he was better than any toy or any gadget or whatever else we could want. He's the best gift. Do you remember why he was the best gift? Why we said last week, Albany? Yeah, because he died on a cross to save us from our sin. And so we talked about that idea that we can be saved from our sin. But you know what? That's just kind of like this general term that we talk about when we talk about Jesus and what he did for us. He saved us from our sin. We can actually describe that a little bit more and a little bit better so that we understand just how wonderful Jesus actually is, just how wonderful his birth is. All right, most of us, put your hand up. Have you heard of the story of the Grinch? It's good. Every so often I feel like I live the story of the Grinch. But you know, he's this big green guy. He hates Christmas, right? He hates Whoville. Joel, or what's your question, man? Not Joel, Noah. What's your question? Was it good? Yeah. Yeah, at the end he likes Christmas. But at first, right, he hates Christmas. And he hates Whoville, right? And if you read the Dr. Seuss book, it says that he stands on the side of his mountain every Christmas hating the Whos. And so what does he do? On Christmas Eve, he sneaks down and he steals all the Christmas presents. He steals all the Christmas decorations. And he expects that he's ruined Christmas. But when the Whos wake up, they start celebrating Christmas even though they don't have presents and even though they don't have decorations. And so there's this line. It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. It turns out Christmas doesn't come from a store. It turns out that Christmas means a little bit more. And when the Grinch realizes that Christmas has a deeper meaning, his heart grows. He no longer is defined by anger and hate. He's no longer defined by that turmoil, right? And it kind of plagued him. He's changed into a good person. We could say that for the first time, the Grinch has peace. We read in Luke chapter 2 that after Jesus was born, shepherds were visited by angels. Do you know this part of the story? Yes. And when the angels visited the shepherds, they sang a song. And that song went a little something like, "Glory to God on the highest, and on earth, peace. Peace among those on whom God's favor rests." So, this is what we can understand, right? We can understand that Jesus' birth brings peace. But what kind of peace? Well, first we need to understand that this peace is where we ourselves, just like the Grinch, are made right. Remember last week we learned that when we trust in Jesus, we are saved from our sin. And so we're forgiven. We get put in a right relationship with God. We're given God's Spirit, and we can do what's right. And so listen to all this peace that we have if we trust in Jesus. We have peace with God. We have the peace in our hearts of being forgiven of our sin. And we have peace because we can trust that God will be with us and he'll walk with us no matter what our circumstances are. Even when it's really chaotic in the world around us. Last year, I experienced a little bit of chaos at Christmas time. Christy and I, we started looking at our calendar. We were trying to figure out when we're going to go cut down our Christmas tree. Our favorite place to go is called Merry Tree Farms. And it has hot chocolate, it has food, it has wagon rides, there's horses, and then there's all these green rolling hills. It's a photographer's dream. But as we looked at their website and you had to book a time slot, there was no time slots that fit for our schedule. So I searched high and low, and I finally found a place that we could go. This was, however, not a very merry experience. Instead of a wagon ride back to the trees, I had to drive my van back. And the ground was deceptively soft. The tires sunk deep once or twice, and the next thing I knew, there was mud slinging everywhere. But with a little bit of holding our breath, we were able to get back to the trees. And for a few brief moments, everything was good and pleasant until my daughter started screaming. The neighbor's wolf dog had made its way over, and that's how she described it. It was a wolf dog. And this wolf dog was very interested in my daughter, who seemed to love to run just like he did. Of course, she was running from the dog, not with the dog. So there we were. Mud everywhere. My daughter screaming wolf dog. Christy, great with child. Remember, she was like 9 months pregnant at this point, right? That's where we were. And there I was on my back, sawing away at a tree. We got the tree cut, strapped to the roof of the van, and made our way back through the mud. And all in with gas, it was just a little over $100 for this wonderful Christmas experience. Now, we just had to get home. We had to put the tree up, and then just all we had to do was vacuum needles daily for the next month. You know, I look back at this whole experience, and I can look back and I can laugh. There's no denying that our plan for an ideal Christmas tradition quickly turned to chaos. Definitely the opposite of peace. When we think about the peace Jesus brings, what about that kind of peace? The kind of peace where all of our plans always turn out perfectly. The kind of peace where our life circumstance is amazing all the time. Is this kind of peace promised with Jesus? Surprisingly, the answer is yes. We read in Isaiah 9, chapter 7, this about Jesus: of the increase of his government and of peace, there will be no end. This isn't just kind of an inner peace that we have. This is a peace in our world. And it happens in two ways. The first way is that as we learn to live correctly, because we have this peace with God now, when we can learn to live correctly, as we live more of God's truth, our life circumstances actually get more and more moments of God's peace. Of course, it's not always guaranteed, right? The world is still broken. We still do make mistakes. But the better we follow Jesus, the better more people follow Jesus, the better chance we have at this peace in our circumstances. And so, as more and more people get saved, and as a church, as we learn to follow Jesus more and more, we're increasing God's peace in our life. But as I said, this isn't guaranteed, because the world is still broken. People are still broken. The second way that this peace comes into our world is that one day Jesus will return, and all things will be made right. All things will be put at peace. God's peace will fill the earth. This is the second way that God's peace is promised to us with the birth of Jesus. Jesus' birth is his first coming. This is when he initiates the peace. When we get peace with God, when we start to see that when we live rightly, right, Noah? When we live rightly, we get more of his peace in our life, right? But in Jesus' second coming, that's when that peace will be made complete. And so the birth of Jesus is the most wondrous Christmas story. He saves us from our sin, but he saves us to his peace. All right, I have some questions that I want you to work through. I need one representative from each little unit to come up and grab a sheet. I have pens here if you need a pen. And just do the discussion questions. Just do the discussion questions.